Hey, Scott Jordan and Mark Warner here for Jancast number 102 for July 1st, 2021. July 1st, hold on 1 second here. What's going on? The summer's moving by fast.
That's for sure. In fact, isn't July 4th considered the middle of the summer?
Oh,
So
don't say that.
technically, that means it's like almost halfway done. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somehow I don't think that math adds up, but
Well, I guess for part of the country, people are going to be saying, don't forget it's going to be snowing soon, right?
there's people wishing for snow in the Northwest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with the heat dome that's over the Northwest, last I heard, the tops of the snow-capped mountains like Mount Hood were actually melting so fast that they were overflowing creeks and rivers.
Crazy.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're wishing for colder weather.
Yeah. And something new here in Pennsylvania for those listening in, if they don't know any better, we are in Pennsylvania. And hey, wait a second, I don't see any masks. No masks, and in fact, state of Pennsylvania declared on Monday that that doesn't matter anymore. It's all gone. It's all finished. So,
Well, so that, like I get asked that a lot. And the reality of it is that, viruses in general hate the summer heat.
yeah,
So, some of this may be related to vaccinations, and some of that has been quite
yeah,
helpful. But it could also be related to the fact that this isn't like a flu season. So, the big question that people wonder is, will we see a fourth wave in the fall
yeah.
when flu normally comes back? And so that's kind of the big question that's out
Yeah,
there.
yeah. We'll get into the coming viruses, but let me bring you up to date on supply chain issues because we haven't talked about that much, and I kind of was hoping everything was going to go away. Well, now the problem is there's not enough truck drivers apparently. So you remember back in whenever the freeze and we were just talking about how hot it's going to be. Remember when Texas was frozen? Well, well, apparently now the raw materials that the polymer people need come from different places, and they have to be transported using some special tanker wagons and stuff. And part of the problem is they can't like stop and stay at a Days Inn overnight and let the tanker sit out in the parking lot because it's got to maintain at a certain temperature. So they need depending upon where it's going, they might need two or three drivers dedicated to that tanker. So now they're having trouble getting drivers to be able to transport the raw material to get it to the plants where they have to do the manufacturing of the raw materials that we need to make the finished product. So go figure, it's now up to the truckers are having trouble. The drivers are finding drivers. So crazy. So yeah, the polymers still are in certain companies, depending upon where they got the raw materials that are doing better. Some are pretty much in the same boat they've been in. So
Well, the
not
interesting
good.
thing about moving product around, it's all in many ways somewhat linked into the whole worker shortage that everybody's
Yeah.
experiencing too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I heard that I thought was very novel approach. I don't know if that's a popular word anymore, novel. We use that to describe coronavirus. So let's just say a new approach. And I think to get a commercial driver's license, a CDL, you need to
Mhm.
be 21 years old. So what they're looking for at different states is rolling that age back to 18
Hmm.
to open it up as a career path for graduating seniors coming out of high school, rather than having them try to find their own way in other careers.
Huh.
And it could open up the workforce, the opportunity for more drivers to become available. And I thought, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got um, folks coming out of high school. Basically, if they're not going on to college, they're looking to start a career doing something, whether it's electrical work or
Yeah.
construction, or being involved with the transportation industry like trucking. And
Yeah.
so for them to have to wait a bunch of years actually is the tendency of them going down a different path
Hmm.
and not
Interesting.
necessarily making their way back to the trucking industry. And so I heard all this on a talk show, And I thought, well, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, another supply chain issue is apparently there's some stuff going on in the aerosol manufacturing end of the business related to cans and the valves and all that. One of the products that we have custom packed for us because we don't do aerosols here. You have to have a specialized manufacturing environment for that. One of our suppliers just told us their normal long lead time of 8 weeks, which is ridiculous to start with, is now, get this, 30 weeks. Oh yeah, my product's so good, you have to wait a half a year or more to get it.
Well, isn't like consumer products like hairspray packed in the aerosol
Yeah.
can? So I don't think anybody would mind waiting 30 weeks to put hairspray on their hair before they go out to dinner.
Well, we all waited a long time to get our hair cut, right?
So speak for yourself.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, listen, back to business. Now that we've gotten over the supply chain stuff, but I know a lot of our viewers kind of like that segment because we're trying to be transparent with what's going on with what our issues are with producing stuff. But Mark, you were out in the wild last week, I believe.
I've been out in the wild a bunch of times, but last week I was out doing training again. So one of the things that we're finding is this huge interest, a huge desire in training
Mm-hmm.
at a level where people are literally desiring the knowledge. And part of that, I think, is that a lot of what's happened in the industry over the years has been training that's kind of morphed into sales speak. And a lot of it has been, hey, buy my products and I'll give you a free in-service training on how to use it. And that's kind of shifted where people now, I think, are looking to get more of an education. They want knowledge. They want to know how to integrate that knowledge into the work they're doing. In some cases, they're even looking to see that training be documented in the form of certification. And some of that is all being done because they want to make smart purchasing decisions.
Yeah.
And so, we're seeing that as a trend, and that's kind of the flavor of what we saw last week was an interest in industry knowledge regarding the tactics and the strategies of the cleaning industry, with the belief that creates the stage for much better purchasing decisions when it relates to equipment or materials or tools or, of course, chemicals. And so that's been the big push. And it's fascinating to me that there was a time when you were happy to get half a dozen people in a room, and now we're in an environment where these opportunities sell out. So there's that much going on. And with that, the question is, where's this going to go in the future? What's going to happen down the road when more and more people are trying to get engaged in training? What are we going to go to? Are we going to clone ourselves, or how do you get that training out there?
I'm game with that cloning thing because then I could have my clone cut the grass
there you go.
when I'm at work,
Well, let me know how that works out.
And then, Mark, you would be replaced then by augmented reality, right?
Well, that's kind of the trend. So the next stage to support training, and think about what airline pilots or military pilots go through. They actually have, live training, and that takes it to a certain point. And then they do some forms of simulation, and that's kind of VR, virtual reality, headsets and all that. And ultimately, they're involved in augmented reality, AR, where they're literally in a room that's mimicking aircraft cockpit. And they're literally dealing with it that way. So that's kind of making the leap into full augmented reality. But augmented reality is somewhat simpler than that. If you think about what the military soldiers tend to go through, they can wear eyewear that will identify either threats or specific things they're looking for and flash it, kind of like like some of the instrumentation on Corvettes, which flashes it up on the windshield heads-up displays. It's kind of the same idea. So there is an idea that at some point people might be able to wear headgear as they walk into a room. It points out what needs to be cleaned. They pick up a disinfectant. It zeroes in on reading the direction panel for dwell time requirements and PPEs. And as they walk around the room, it zones in like, hey, you're going to do dry before wet. You're going to go high before low. You're going to hit this and that. And that's what augmented reality might actually lead to. And that's kind of like going from a classroom training to well, I don't even want to use the word virtual, but kind of a simulated on the job experience.
Yeah.
Where you're being told what to do, but not by somebody standing next to you live. And
Well,
that's
these new iPads because they have LiDAR radar built into them. Instead of having to wear a headset, you'll be holding up your iPad and looking at the room, and it'll say, like a little button or arrow will point to clean the sink first or do this task, whatever, and it's all comes with it. You don't even have to wear a headset. Yeah,
that's where all the future is going. That's for sure.
Yeah. That's the president calling you back again, like last time.
It was, yeah. I thought
the guy, doesn't he know what our schedule is?
He's looking for advice again.
Well, speaking of procedures and all that, you found a neat article about how gyms are opening up and what that level of expectation is, because in the past people wipe down all their equipment and everything else, but it's pretty interesting how the gyms are really paying attention to that type of thing nowadays.
Yeah, so people are trying to flock back to the gyms, and I think that's related to a lot of us have developed a shape related to COVID and the inactivity, right? So everybody wants to get back in shape, and so people are flocking into the gyms, but they're being very judgmental about what gyms they're willing to go to. And it's the whole idea of extreme cleanliness is driven home at the fitness center and gym level. People are going in looking to make sure that they feel safe and comfortable being involved with a gym. And obviously there's a lot of skin contact surfaces that exist in a gym. So that becomes a big concern. People are carrying in their own wipes to do a pre-wipe. And that's a good reason, because a lot of the disinfectants, there's a lot of different kinds, of course, but there's disinfectants out there that can leave some form of residue that might be an irritation to bare skin. And so people are trying to figure out, what can I do to, not only make sure it's safe and disinfected, but to make sure I don't, develop some form of skin irritation as a result of being around disinfectants, which has kind of launched the world into a desire for different kinds of disinfectants.
Yeah. Well, Babe, what a segue. Now, those of you that follow the Sunday Sales Blast, we talked in the last week's issue that we try to not blatantly push our products on Jancast.com, but in this case, we have a brand new product that's going to be coming out very shortly. And I think the best way to describe the product is for me to read the complete name. So it's CitroRX Virucidal Botanical Disinfectant Cleaner and Odor Counteractant, Tuberculocidal, Fungicidal, and it's a sanitizer. Then on top of that, it's super, super safe, no quat, non-flammable, non-corrosive, HMIS rating of 000. So it's everything you would want, perfect for those gym situations. So
I love
soon.
Yeah, I love that it's botanical. The whole idea of being able to use nature in a way to help keep ourselves safe is fantastic, being bio-based. And I love the fact that if this is almost a residue-free chemistry.
Clean glass, mirrors, everything with it.
Even if you were exposed to the liquid prior to it drying out or being removed, the fact that it's botanical has got some indications there that would be far less of a threat for skin irritations and things like that. And the other thing that's on there is, and I was fascinated to see it, was a claim for RSV.
Yep. And what is RSV, Mark? Because
So
I we have to, this is not a new one, but it's one that's definitely going to be in the conversation soon, if not already. Right?
yeah, so RSV stands for respiratory syncytial
Good job.
virus,
Good job.
RSV. And
Yep.
it's been around for a long time, and it attacks young children, and it goes after the elderly, and it's kind of a lower respiratory deal, meaning that it gets into your lungs. So the threat is pneumonia-like condition that can cause death, and that was always the big threat with COVID-19.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is if you got COVID, got a fever, you had a runny nose, that was no big deal. But the people that succumbed as a result of it infecting their lungs.
Yep.
And that's why they were put on breathers and respirators and, something to help them get oxygenated. Well, RSV is something that is very specific to attacking the lungs, and it's
Yeah.
something that's been around. We had very few instances of it last year, and people are saying that's a result of all the effort that was made to combat COVID-19.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it kind of hurt it, but we're wondering if we're going to look at that being a secondary threat come flu season this fall.
Yeah.
Just like we're wondering if there'll be a fourth wave of COVID-19 this fall. There may or may not be because of the vaccination percentages,
Yep.
but that doesn't mean threats are gone. And RSV may be a threat that we worry about with our young children. COVID-19 was not particularly a big threat on young children.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to young children or the elderly, these are fragile parts of our population we need to be concerned about. And I think RSV may be
Yeah.
something more and more people ask about, and you heard it here first.
That's right. That's right. Okay, well, I think that's about it for this week's show. Again, we're bi-weekly. Next Sunday is the 4th of July, and I always like to tell people the most important thing is about 4th of July is have a good time, but don't blow anything up.
Well put. And if something catches fire, put it out with your beer.
Hey, good thinking.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks,
well,
everybody.
thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great holiday, and we will see you in a week and a half or so. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.